What is up, guys? I'm the Senator, and there's a big chance that Rainbow Six Siege could soon go free-to-play. And so, I don't know if you've noticed this, but free-to-play games are becoming more and more popular. No longer are free-to-plays made by just small indie developers who want to make games that they're passionate about, but some of those popular games out today are free-to-plays that are designed and developed by large AAA studios. And it's very possible and likely that Rainbow Six Siege could eventually become a free-to-play game. So you're probably wondering, where am I finding this information? Well, Rainbow Six Siege director Leroy Athanasoff, it's spelled Athanasoff, I don't know how else to say it, probably just butchered it, but oh well. He's the director of Rainbow Six Siege, and he has stated that he would like to see Rainbow Six Siege go free-to-play eventually. And he has gone to state that the only reason that Rainbow Six Siege currently isn't a free-to-play game is because of the problem that would occur with smurfing. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense, but even if the smurfing problem was somehow to get fixed, Rainbow going free-to-play would have a lot of negative effects on the game, more than positives in my opinion. But before I go into all the negatives that would come out of Siege going free-to-play, I'm going to try to find some positives because I don't want this entire video to just be negative, and I hate channels that constantly upload videos that revolve around negative opinions and just putting out negative vibes. So the biggest and most obvious pro that would come out of Ubisoft making Siege free-to-play would be that more players would play the game. And as someone who absolutely loves Siege, I love the idea of Siege growing more than it already is. And Siege has already experienced a tremendous amount of growth in this past year, and if it went free-to-play, there would be a huge spike in new players. Another pro that would come out of making Siege free-to-play would be that since there are more and more players that are playing, it's likely that Ubisoft could generate more revenue. And as of right now, Siege is almost always on sale, and you can usually download it for about $8. And that's the case for Steam anyway. I'm not sure what the charge is on the PlayStation Store or whatever store Xbox uses. So the price point on Siege is already extremely low. But if the game is to come free to play, it's likely that these new players that would come to it would spend more money on cosmetic items. And you can look at Apex Legends or Fortnite as an example of this. And most players who really like those games are willing to spend more than $8 on just cosmetics alone. It's like Fortnite, they'll drop $20 on a skin, no problem. And with the possibility of getting more revenue, that means that Ubisoft could devote more of the resources and time to overall game improvements. But real quickly, before I move on, let me pause for a second to say that if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. That would help me out so much, guys. Sorry to interrupt, but your boy got a plug. So overall, other than the fact that there'd be more people playing online, and it's possible that Siege could gain more money by going to a free-to-play model, I don't really see any other large positives that would come out of Rainbow Six Siege becoming a free-to-play game. And if you can think of any, just put it down in the comments. I want to hear what else you guys think about this. I certainly see more negatives when it comes to the thought of Rainbow Six Siege going free-to-play. And one of the biggest negatives that would come out of Siege going free-to-play would be the smurfing issue. And according to the Siege director, as I said earlier, that's the only thing preventing them from going to a free-to-play model. Smurfing is already a huge issue, and that issue will increase greatly when someone can make an unlimited number of Smurf accounts. And if people are able to create over 10 different accounts to Smurf on, it will literally ruin the game. The number of golds and platinum players playing in copper level or bronze would absolutely ruin the game for so many people. Another big issue with this free-to-play model is that there would be a lot more hackers and cheaters. And cheaters are already a huge problem in Siege when it comes to PC. Console players really don't have to worry about hackers or cheaters, more or less just DDoSers and people who are douchebags and think it's okay to play on console with mouse and keyboard. Even now, with the current model still being paying for the game, we still have a tremendous number of cheaters, and many will pay for the game just to cheat. But if it were to become free, the number of cheaters would increase so much, because what would the repercussion be of cheating? You just create another Uplay account and do it again and again. There's nothing really to stop that. And cheating is already ruining the game for a lot of people. And if Siege went free to play, honestly, you could probably expect to have a cheater in almost every match you play. And this is a really big problem, especially when you consider how competitive Siege is. If you were to look at a casual game such as Star Wars Battlefront or any of the games in the Battlefield franchise, cheating wouldn't be as big of a deal. Yes, it's annoying, you hate going up against cheaters, but those games are very casual and not competitive at all. Some people can try to play competitively, but let's be real, those games are not competitive. And you can compare those casual games to very competitive games such as Rainbow Six Siege, CSGO, and Overwatch. It is in those type of games, those competitive games, where cheating can just completely ruin the experience altogether, because you're there to be competitive. You're not there to just, have fun with your buddies and play around. Yes, that happens, but for many people, Siege isn't a game where you go and do that. I can certainly say that it's more competitive in Siege than it would be in Battlefield 5. Another thing that has been concerned about this free-to-play model that could come into place would be the possibility of actually having to use and spend real currency in order to purchase new operators. I know I said earlier that it's possible that Ubisoft could make more money by going free-to-play, considering that many will buy cosmetic items. However, it's also possible that many players will not buy cosmetic items. And I know that I'm probably a terrible person for this. I'm a terrible fan of the game, but I've never actually spent real currency to purchase a cosmetic item in Siege. And I know that there's a lot of people like me out there who really don't like it, because it's not because we're extremely cheap or anything, but if we're going to get a cosmetic item or uniform, we want to be able to see it. Other than weapon skins and charms, you really can't see, the skin you're wearing. And I'm not going to drop $20 on a skin if I can't actually see it. So with there being a lot of players who may not be interested in cosmetic items like myself, Ubisoft could earn a lot of money by actually charging players to use the DLC operators instead of actually having to grind for renown in order to purchase them. Now, I don't think that if we went to a free-to-play model, this would definitely happen, but if say they went to a free-to-play model, once you go to a free-to-play model, you're pretty much set there. It's hard to go back on that promise of, hey, this is a free-to-play game. But if they went to that free-to-play model and somehow there weren't people buying cosmetics, like I said, they may have to go down the route of actually charging people for the DLC operators. And don't get me wrong, this is just complete speculation on my end. This is what I could see as a possibility and a negative outcome of them going to this free-to-play model. And lastly, I may be a douchebag for saying this, but I really do not want to play Siege with a bunch of 8-year-olds. And free-to-play games automatically attract kids. I know this would be a bigger problem when it comes to, console players instead of PC players, because most small kids will play console rather than PC because, it's cheaper, easier for the parents to afford. But nobody wants to play with an 8-year-old screecher who puts the mic in his mouth and is just obnoxious the entire round. And I know it's really nitpicky when we're looking at this, free-to-play discussion as a whole, but that's something that'll come out of Siege being free-to-play. But at the end of the day, if Ubisoft is able to, fix the smurfing issue by putting in safeguards that detect players who are throwing or have ridiculous KDs and win-losses, I wouldn't be that opposed to Siege going to a free-to-play model. And if Ubisoft invested in a better program to, detect cheaters, again, I wouldn't be so opposed. But looking at the current state of the game, I think it's too early to even think about moving Siege to a free-to-play model. And so if down the line the concurrent player count just starts to drop, going to free-to-play wouldn't be such a bad idea. But as of right now, Siege is stronger now than it has ever been before. There are currently 55 million registered players, and in February of 2020, it reached the largest concurrent player count of 170,000 players who were all online at the same exact time. And so this current model that R6 is using is been working great for the longest time, and R6 is at a stage where it could easily mess up all that it's built. Moving to a free-to-play model before they, buff out the smurf problems and the cheater problem, all that kind of stuff, that could easily ruin what they've done. And I think their best course would be to, keep doing what they're doing because it's working. But this is all coming from a player perspective, and Ubisoft may have data that shows that they could benefit more by going to a free-to-play model. And these are just problems that I believe that could form with Siege going to the free-to-play model. So what do you think? Do you think that Siege will ever go free-to-play, or am I overreacting, or do you even think that Siege would actually benefit by going free-to-play? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. And so that's about it. Remember to subscribe and hit the bell icon, and as always, have a good one.